Chris, what's up, man?
So I'm Coach Grant. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Good to see you.
To you.
So appreciate you coming on. We're just gonna have a little conversation about mindset, mentality, and just kind of what's got you here as a track star, Division One. Let me give a quick little intro to Chris. He is a Division One sprinter at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He is a former student of mine, former football player. And Chris, showed up in eighth grade with his twin brother, William. And, everybody always thought William was the athlete and Chris was the smart one and all this stuff. And lo and behold, Chris is the fastest guy like in school history. And he's just casually a 2-year starter on the football team. And, um, you know, was on the team when we made that great state championship runner up year. And Chris just always showed up every day. He was a team player, and his journey hasn't been easy, which we'll kind of get into a little bit. Um, but very thankful to have him. And Chris and I, we had a good relationship as he finished high school. As I started working in mental performance and learning this whole process and how to train the mindset and everything we go into, I reached out to Chris and said, "Look, man, I'm doing this. Would you want to, hop on a FaceTime, hop on a Zoom once a week, and kind of see where it goes?" And here we are, 8 months later, almost 9 months later, and Chris has been doing awesome. He's super super detailed and very focused on what he does and perfecting his craft. I think you can definitely get some insight from Chris how he's gotten to this point through this interview, and we'll get it rolling, man. So, Chris, let's start with high school. Okay, what led you to track, and what made you realize, hey, I'm a pretty fast human being?
Well, it all started back at St. John for a field day. We'd always have these running competitions and I always do all right. And ever since then, I just enjoyed racing. I'd always ask William to race and he'd say no. So I had to race someone. So I decided to join the track team. And ever since, just went from there.
Rest is history. So, I mean, you're on varsity as an eighth grader, right?
Yes.
You're running the 100, 200, and you're on the relays, right?
Yeah.
So, what was your mindset, as got to the varsity level as an eighth grader? And, how intimidated were you? What were some things you might have said to reassure yourself, going into those meets, going against high school seniors and juniors?
Yeah, well, at that time, I wasn't as good at all this mental focusing and confidence building as I am now. But the biggest thing was just try and run my same race I've been running that I did in eighth grade meets because it in track, if you just run your race, you can't let the people around you affect how you run.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't know that, and it did. So going to eighth grade was a bit of a going to compete on varsity was a bit of a jump, but it's just about doing and competing against yourself.
And that's so powerful because it's not like you sat there and said, "Coach, I'm an eighth grader. I really probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm gonna stay with the eighth grade meets." Like you had the mentality of, "Hey, if that's what's asked of me, that's what's gonna happen." Um, yeah, I think it's really cool how you just ran with it and, literally. And from here, look where we're at. So now you progress through high school. Okay. So when did you win that first race? And what was the feeling after that first time you won the 100 or 200, whatever one it was first?
I remember in ninth grade, so this the first varsity meet that year, we're running the 100 at Catholic High, and come out, run 10.8 first place, and I was just like, "Dang, this is awesome." But
Yeah.
that race, I ended up injuring my hamstring that put me out for the rest of the year. So that was devastating.
Jeez. So let's talk about that. So now you just go from the high of the highs to winning a race, breaking sub 11. And now all of a sudden, just like that, poof. you're out. So, what was the thought process and what kind of motivated you to make sure that, you stayed on the right recovery track and kept the pace to stack the wins each day to get back to where you were?
It was definitely tough, especially being as young as I was at the time. Um, just having that injury that's gonna take months to recover from and knowing that you probably won't be able to compete this season sucked because at the time, I was very short-sighted, so I only
Yeah.
saw, like, next week, I won't be able to compete at this meet next week.
Mhm.
But recovery-wise, really just, uh, stretching when I'm able to and making sure I'm rolling out and everything's prime. But just the recovery process in general, especially for the hamstring, it's just, demoralizing because you just can't run.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough. Um, and like you said, the best point you hit on was you're so, nearsighted with it. You can't think big picture to where if I'm able to rehab this the right way, I'm gonna be faster than I ever was next season. But like, you don't want to miss out. And that's totally normal. But I think a lot of young athletes lose sight of, the ability to see the big picture behind it and how important it is. Because we all want to rush back. We all want to get back to playing as soon as possible. But as soon as you re-injure that hamstring, I mean, you're out again. So it's
Yeah.
it's just a total, mindset behind, how to approach the injury and recovery. So backtrack a little bit. Our football program, we take a lot of pride in the summer and the off-season workouts, and it's very strenuous. It's difficult for, our guys to really balance a lot of things because we're there at 6 in the morning, we run, we lift, we practice, and it's hard to juggle other things that are going on with, their lives. So Chris, on the other hand, his junior going into senior year starts competing in the summer for track and essentially training. So walk us through that whole process of, taking that next uncomfortable step to, trying to better your game, get recruited while balancing that training for football.
Yeah, it was definitely a big step because backtracking a little bit, I decided to do summer track because sophomore year, I finally got through the first meet healthy, and then the rest of the season gets canceled for COVID. And then the next year, I had an injury that just set me back the whole season. So I'm like, I need to do something if I want to run in college. So I
Mhm.
decided to start doing summer track, and it was in terms of the sport also helped me not only get recruited, but
Yeah.
also find other people to help me along, whether it be um physical therapists or other people, and
Yeah.
just learning a lot about the sport in general.
Yeah. So let's unwrap that a little bit because so now you're at a point where, anybody in high school going through what we go through in the summer with workouts probably says, uh, I can't run in the afternoons. It's 150 degrees. I've already worked out. I've already ran. I'm trying to gain weight. I need to rest. I need to go work my summer job. I need to make some money, whatever. And you sat there and made the decision to say, I need to take this step. I'm going to sacrifice free time. I'm going to sacrifice, the ability to recover and rest, probably as much as you needed to. And you saw the big picture again behind the network. So now that one decision of you saying, I'm going to go beyond my comfort zone. I'm going to get out of this, place of I'm just going to work out, do what I'm asked to do and go home. You said, I'm going to take the extra rep. I'm going to go the extra mile. And that decision, like you said, led to a bigger network, physical therapists, trainers, and really optimized your training for your senior season. So it's amazing how these little decisions just make or break, so many things in our lives and you never realize. But ultimately, it was you taking the plunge to do summer track
Yeah.
where it's 150 degrees and, take it to the next level.
The
So,
thing
Yeah.
With any sort of setback or injuries, there's always 2 ways you can approach it. You could just let it affect you, you could complain about it, and just look at the injury as just a negative force that is just stopping you from getting where you wanna go, or you can get something out of it. So, I would have never done track if I didn't have that setback my junior year. I would have never thought that I needed to go and do it in the summer. But because of that, and I'm guilty of doing both. Because whenever I first had that setback, it was tough. I was complaining after every race. I wasn't running the, times I ran in the past, and I was just so demoralized. But as the season went on, I realized I could do something about it. I can take this and carry it over, compete in the summer, get better, and do what I need to do mentally and physically to set myself up better instead of just looking at the injury and thinking, "Oh, poor me."
Hmm. Yeah. We all have it. I mean, we all have that mindset. And, when we talk about, with Ben Newman, um, you know, elite performance coaching and, with Brian Kane is that, and my personal favorite, Bill Bessick, he's, got the fighter versus victim mentality, and I love it. But, it's so easy for us to have that victim mindset. But for you live to a standard. You knew that your standard was to compete at a high level. And yeah, your feelings told you, poor me. But either way, you got up and then the next day and you just stacked the little wins every single day that got you to where you are now. And, you can look back and say, yeah, I complained and I did this and that, but we all do it. But at the same time, your standard sets you apart from other people who would have said, well, I'm just going to go give up on this and party in college. And, it was pretty refreshing seeing you at the football game this past year, you with all your buddies, the alumni circle, and they're all looking like they're 40 years old, looking like I should probably look. And here you are looking like Superman in your Letterman jacket, and it's like, you just stacked the days and you just kept living to that standards. So now you have a great senior season, and here comes the next obstacle is where do we go? How do we get to the college we want to get to? How do we secure a way for us to compete? So talk us through the recruiting process and just take us all the way through how it ended with you signing with UL.
Yeah, the recruiting process was definitely, somewhat difficult because my after my sophomore year, I started getting letters from some of these bigger colleges, and then come junior year, I have the setback, and then everything stopped. All forms of communication with any type of recruiting just went away. So then come in my senior year, I went in knowing I had to make something happen. So I just kept running, kept working, kept trying to get better. And as the season went on, I knew UL was one of the places I really wanted to go to. So we, like every other week, we'd email them. And then this other coach reached out to us and said, I know the UL coach. So he reached out, but still it was silent. And over here at UL, they already were stacked on sprinters. Keep running. And then I decide I might just walk on at LSU and just work my hardest and see how that works out.
Yep.
Lo and behold, after I graduate, going into summer, I get a call from Coach B saying, "Hey, Chris, we have a spot open and we would like you to come and run at UL." And I was just overjoyed. Finally, something. And then I took it and ran with it.
Literally. You do that a lot. You take it and run with it a lot.
Yeah.
Literally. That's amazing. So, so much self-doubt there, so much what if, but like you said, you kept training. The easy way out would have been, I don't feel like walking on an LSU. I'm not going to fit in. They don't really want me. I didn't get the offer I want. So, I'm just going to hang it up. But no, you kept running, you kept training and waiting for your opportunity. And has it paid off? Unbelievable. So talk about the transition. You have these expectations of being a Division 1 athlete. Was it everything you thought it would be, or what was that transition like from high school and the big move?
The transition was a lot bigger than I thought it would be, just for the fact that in high school, it's like maybe at a meet, you might have one person that can compete with you, but in college, everyone is fast. So whenever I first got here, um, I started getting tighter in my running form just because I'm not used to having people next to me when I'm running. And over time, it's just a mental thing. And then the more I ran in college, the more self doubt started to come. It's like, can I really compete with these people? Can
Mhm,
I be great here?
mhm,
And then that self doubt starts to creep in,
mhm,
and stacked with injuries, all this other stuff comes back. But I was fortunate enough that I've gone through hard times like this before, to where you just need to keep working. You just got to take the next step, do keep the small things consistent.
yeah, and I mean, when you feel backed up against the wall and you get to that point of saying, "Uh, I don't know what to do," there's only one thing that keeps you going, and it's your burn. It's your ability to, lean into the stress, lean into the adversity, and say, "One foot after the other, let's go," and you just start the next day. Um, so fast forward now, we go to August. You and I start working together. We start talking a little bit. And I'm of course still navigating this whole mental performance curriculum and kind of where to go from here. But I felt like once we kind of went through Brian Kane's program, with mental performance mastery, I felt like you started to get a grip on a few things. So, what about the mental performance coaching kind of helped you the most in terms of getting over that self doubt and finding that motivation and remembering kind of who you were, through your past successes?
The biggest things about the mental performance coaching that really affected me the most, I think, in part, is the visualization
Hmm.
and then the breathing techniques
Yeah.
and just all these things that help build confidence
Hmm.
in your ability to perform. Because mindset, especially in track, you only get one shot at this
Hmm.
race. So you have to be in the best mental and physical state possible when you reach the starting line. So just being able to be more confident has just really helped me perform more consistently.
Yeah. And I mean, what you said from the get go about, and you understand you can only focus on what you have control over. Nobody else in the race, it controls your outcome, except, when some of these guys run into your lane, that's a little bit different. But,
Yeah.
but your mindset behind it is what do I control? My breathing, my start, how I finish. We have our confidence conditioning statements. You want to finish the race faster every time. You want to be able to accelerate throughout your sprints and rehearsing them, practicing over and over again. And, I'm happy to say that we've gotten to the point now where, yeah, you and I will touch base, on a Thursday or Friday before a big meet and you have your recording, your visualization, mental imagery, but it's not like you're relying on me for any of it. You've taken the tools and you've incorporated it into your process and you're allowing yourself to be your own mental performance coach, which I think is the ultimate goal for everybody who, us mental performance coaches work with. So, you know, I love how number one, you attack your process, but number two, you know, you do a lot of your research on your own between you do a lot of reading on motivation. So, what are some of the good things you've read lately and some of the good books that you recommend? And we'll kind of close out with that.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing I've researched, and especially when I got to college and when I was dealing with these injuries, I realized mental performance is like a skill. Like you work out to get
Yeah.
stronger, you
Yeah.
got to practice mental performance to get more confident.
Yeah.
And through that, I started to do a lot of research. And the biggest thing is you can't focus on what other people are doing. You just gotta all all you can do is look at yourself. How can I get better? Let me run the race faster than I did the last one. And just the culmination of all of that kind of ties into it to where
Mhm.
you're not only building that confidence, but you're building a better mindset for growth as well.
Yeah. And we start with, especially the high school level and even college, we start with, okay, what's your growth mindset? What is your Yeah, I mean, the number one pillar we start with is growth mindset and just understanding that you're capable of change, you're capable of growing. And like you said, you have to cultivate it. It's not something that just develops on its own. The easy way out is saying, I'm not good enough. Well, I wasn't born this way. But anything you kind of put your mindset to, like you can, and you're doing it. So Chris, you hit all the check marks. You're going to be successful in whatever you do. I'm so excited to continue to work with you, and can't thank you enough for hopping on and dropping some information for some athletes and people who are considering, going to the next level, and really what it takes and what you have to overcome. But ultimately, just stacking the wins and stacking the days. So thanks again, brother.
Thank you, Coach Grant.
All right, talk soon.
Bye.